when you bought property in Bonner County, did you know that you needed a permit in order to build?
Do you have?
No, that was the question. Did you know?
I'm not here to answer your questions. You're here to answer my questions, okay? You work for the public. I do not work for you. You answer to us. There are people who have an issue with.
I know, I'm making
There
a
are people
point,
that have an
Chad.
issue with the way that you choose to run planning and zoning, the way that you choose to try and police for profit. It's not acceptable. People don't like it because we don't agree with it. Because you sit here and say, what's wrong with us doing that? What's wrong with going after your neighbors to collect permitting?
Chad, let's go back to my original question.
I'm not going to answer your questions. I'm not here to answer any of your
But you
questions.
sound-
Your job is to answer and serve the public, correct?
Chad,
It is my job to serve you in any way.
I'm not asking you to serve me.
Uh,
I'm asking if you knew
we're not
that you
answering my
needed a
questions
building.
then.
I was asking if you knew.
I'm asking
So let
you
me finish
questions
my
and you're not
sentence.
even answering them.
Let me
If you're not
finish
going to
my
answer my
sentence.
questions, I don't care to have you finish anything you have to say. You're sitting here acting as though I owe you something. I owe you nothing.
I'm not saying you owe me
I owe you
anything.
absolutely nothing.
Right.
So for you to have your employees, when they run out of time, to sit on a computer and go search out what your neighbors are doing, do you have anything invested in this community, or you just collect a paycheck?
Of course I live in this community.
No, do you have anything invested in this community? Do you do anything with your community other than collect a paycheck? You don't do anything, do you?
You don't know anything about
I'm
me.
asking you right now and you're not answering
You're
me.
right, because I'm not going to answer your question.
Why not?
Because-
you're not into transparency, are you?
Oh, stop it.
Why is it that your employees, why is it that they're reporting anonymously versus saying outright that they're the ones that turned in the neighbor because they found it on a realtor website? It shows you guys are hiding stuff and you're doing something wrong.
No, we're not doing anything wrong, Chad.
Then why are you doing it anonymously?
You know that there's companies out there that'll scrub websites.
Why
to
is it you're doing
identify-
it anonymously? I don't care what other companies are doing. We're talking about,
But they
we're
scrub
talking
them to
about public
identify
service,
violations
right?
for
Public
public
service,
entities.
right? You serve the public, which you don't seem to care about. You don't seem to care about this community or your neighbors. You seem to care about a paycheck.
No, I don't.
You're not from here, are you?
Chad.
Where are you from originally?
From originally Arizona.
You ever lived in California?
Nope.
Never?
Nope.
And did you do these kind of policing processes down there?
Every county and city does these type of policing processes.
Does Boundary County do it?
I don't know about Boundary
Does
County.
Newton County do it?
Yep,
Do they?
I'm sure they do.
You sure?
Yeah,
You're sure, or you think so?
I think so, because every county
So do
uses
you
what's
care if the
available
public,
to us.
let me ask you this, if the public comes to you, and I'm not coming to you as a single person,
I know
clearly.
you're not.
If the people come to you and tell you we have an issue with the way you are running the planning and zoning, are you gonna do anything about it, or are you just gonna dig your heels in and say, well, we're doing's good because I collect a paycheck?
So I work for the board.
You
And
work
if
for the people.
I work for the board, and if the board would like me to change the way that we process and investigate, I would be happy to change it.
So does Dan know that you do this?
Everybody knows, the board knows that we do this.
Dan has publicly stated that you guys do not use real estate websites.
I
find
I don't know what,
permanent
then I don't know what he knows or not. I would assume that they would know.
So don't you think that that's not good, that you're not even being transparent enough to the people that you operate, or you
Well,
answer
you're
to,
making a
don't
great
even know?
assumption there, okay?
How am
You're
I
just
making an assumption?
Because I haven't had the chance to talk with Dan and understand what he knows.
I can
or
prove
doesn't
it to you.
know. I understand.
I could absolutely prove it to
I
you.
get it.
I don't know, I'm not making an assumption, I'm telling you it's verifiable proof. He made a public statement saying that you guys do not use realtor websites at all. Zero real estate websites at all to find permitting violations, yet you are doing it. That is an issue. You don't see that as an issue?
I don't.
I mean, I understand that your paycheck is important to you,
Chad, don't.
but I would think that the way that you operate in this community should matter as well.
It does. That's why we continue
To
to make
who?
changes to the ordinances.
I'm
and
coming
changes
to you and I'm
this
telling you I
department
have an
to
issue,
improve
and
it.
I'm telling you that if the people have
So,
an issue,
let me
maybe
have
change it,
some-
and you told me no, if the commissioners say it, then you'll do it.
Right. Let me meet with them and talk with them about it and see what their challenges are.
I think the issue is that because you don't see a problem in it, that you morally don't have issues with going after neighbors and then anonymously reporting it. Do you understand that
Did
if
you
you're
know that
getting,
when you
if
bought
you're
your
getting
property, you
neighbors
needed
to-
a permit?
Do you understand?
Did you know
that-
when you bought your
do
property, you needed a
understand that
permit?
if you are getting neighbors against each other, you are not making a better community?
You're not
So when you
listening.
say, hey, your neighbor turns you in, your compliance officers specifically say your neighbor turns you in. It was a neighbor that turned you in. They're lying.
Not always.
Are you
Because we
okay?
have neighbors turn people in all
If
the
they've
time.
done it one time, they're lying about it. Period. You're lying about it. If you're lying about it, you're lying to the public. Who do you think should be held responsible? The head of the department? I'm assuming you know that Lee lies to people about this stuff, correct?
I don't know that.
How do you not know it? He's underneath you. You're supposed to be in charge of the department, so you're claiming ignorance? So are you surprised by me telling you this? Because you don't seem surprised.
Chad, we find out violations in lots of different ways.
Let's talk about this one specifically then.
We investigate
Listen,
them
you're not
in
going to
lots of
sidestep
different
me,
ways.
okay? You're not going to sidestep what I'm saying. I suggest you answer it straight up or tell me you're done answering questions. I'm telling you that
I told you what I'm going to do.
Lee is submitting anonymous reports, okay, saying it's a neighbor. He's lying to the community. He works for the community. He answers to the community. Do you feel like that's someone that you should employ?
Yes.
You do.
I need to.
Someone that's
Let
lying to
me
the community?
let me research this stuff a little bit further before you make assumptions.
I'm not making assumptions.
Let me
I'm
look
telling
into
you,
it
you guys
further.
have been caught. It's been recorded.
It's not caught, dude.
How's it not caught?
Because
He's been
Because-
recorded on
Because
saying.
you guys are operating in a certain way that the public,
there's nothing wrong
the
with the way
public
that we
has not
operate.
been aware of, and then now
There's
they're being,
nothing wrong with the way that we operate.
according to you. As I've just
And according-
as I've just said to you, I'm not here by myself under just
I
my
know you're
opinion.
not. I know you're
This
not.
is a public opinion shared by hundreds of people in this
Okay.
area and thousands of people throughout the country.
Yep.
You're well aware of it. You know
I
what I'm
am.
talking about.
Yep, I do.
So why are you digging your heels in and saying we're good to go when it's pretty simple? You just say, you know
What do you want?
Let's change our policies.
I'm happy to change
Let
my
me tell you-
policy,
let me
Chad.
tell you what I would
I'm happy
like,
to
okay?
change it. I'm already working on it.
Let me tell you what I'd
as we
like then.
speak.
As a community, the issue is if my neighbor has a problem with me, that's when you guys should step in. When my neighbor says, hey, he built over his setback. Here's the proof. Guys, here's the proof. Then you come out. Then we all talk because I did something wrong at that point. Okay? When you try to prevent crimes or prevent things before they take place and interject, you're not serving your community. You're serving yourselves. If you waited for a neighbor to complain, then it's an issue. That's where you guys step in. That is your job. Going out and looking for it just caused you guys a huge headache. It's a huge headache.
It's a waste of taxpayers'
I don't
money.
think that's what the code says, though. I think the code says that anybody, including the department, can turn in a violation. And so maybe that needs to be revisited.
What I'm
I don't have a
asking, what I'm
problem with
asking
that.
you though is like, why can't Lee just be content with
Why
his
can't-
job
why
and when
can't-
he's called out to go and find an issue, he finds an issue?
So, Chad,
The
did
police
you
do the
know-
same thing. The rest of the services do. Like, fire truck doesn't go out looking for fires. They wait for it, and then they go serve the people. The police doesn't go out kicking doors looking for violations.
You're-
They wait for them to come, and then they go out and serve the people. You guys, this looks like you are just trying to create more and more work to justify more and more jobs, which is a tax burden on the people.
Yep, I get where you're
Do
saying.
you have kids in this community?
I do.
I have a kid that's under a year. I would love for him to be able to live in Idaho. This is where we're from. This is where we're from. So to see our government taxing us out, to see all the regulations getting put in place, the more and more regulations, do you think he's going to be able to
We
come
have
into this
less
community?
regulations than most of the counties.
You guys
And you're
tried to
taking them
create
away.
More regulations on your new proposal of the RVs. You took 120 days, and now you turn it into must have a pad, must have water and power hookups.
So what we're doing is we're changing it to be if it's gonna be a permanent location, then what we're actually doing is increasing the number of living spaces that are allowed on a piece of property.
So let me ask.
Why do you determine how many living spaces we're allowed to have on our property?
Density. Like the issue is for one, you're trying to do it in a blanket manner. You're trying to say, because you know we live out on acres
Yep.
versus people who don't. So when you say, okay, you guys can't put this in city limits or whatever, it's understandable if someone wouldn't want 5 trailers on their property, right? But if I've got 100 acres, how is it any of your business? And why do we try to do it in one big blanket,
I
one
understand.
size fits all?
That's why we're working on these sub-area committees.
So
these
why
sub-area
are we
plans.
going after community and neighbors and trying to put them in a jail cell and trying to take their money instead of working with it?
I'm not.
I'm getting letters left and right.
Chad,
And I'm telling you, it's escalating.
it's escalating because we haven't had a conversation about it. And if we could, you and I can have a conversation about it, I think we could resolve it. But you've talked to everybody else, but you haven't talked to me.
I haven't talked to everyone else. I haven't talked to our commissioners.
Right.
I went straight to people, neighbors, and friends because that's who you guys represent. The neighbors. And when I went to my neighbors and I talked to them and they took issue with it too, and it was a neighbor who brought this issue to me and had me bring it out to light. I didn't even talk to anyone about my issue publicly. It was Adrian's issue of them coming out there, and then Lee comes out there and lies through the entire time, and she finds out afterwards that he was lying completely, and you guys come out to look at some pipe that happens to be state regulations and not even your guys' jurisdiction, and somehow she's still out $85 for an inspection? Do you see the issue with that? It looks a lot like extortion. No one gave her money back. And she wasn't in violation.
She was.
Well, what was she in violation of?
She put up that building with.
She was
plumbing
allegedly
inside.
in violation. You guys did not find a violation, correct?
She removed it all. She removed the plumbing.
So you didn't find a violation?
No, she told me that she removed the plumbing after she got notice that it was a violation.
But
That's
how'd
what
she-
told me.
How'd you know that she had a violation?
Because they went on realtor.com and looked at her stuff.
So we research properties in all different ways. I mean, we're gonna use all the tools available.
Research, you mean what? Going after?
No researching, seeing if the complaint is accurate.
But the issue, but it
seeing
wasn't
if
a
the-
But there was no
That's the
complaint.
thing, she lives so remote that a neighbor didn't complain. It's not a complaint. It's you guys policing for profit. That's what you're doing. The issue is it's not a
It has nothing
problem.
to do with profit, it has to do with the process. There's a process in all of this stuff, and you follow the process and you're fine.
And the process is if there's a complaint,
Is there a
who filed the
process?
complaint is your people.
There isn't. There isn't a process.
What is
There's
your
a right-
name?
It's a right. I'm Jeff Conley.
Chad,
I'm Bonner County Commissioner.
my issue is that there's federal process in this country where we're allowed to be secure in our property. So when we use drones, when we use satellites to look into someone's property because you guys can't physically see into the property, you don't see a problem with that? And this is more of just a moral issue on top of rights. If you guys are saying, we just don't see an issue with being able to spy on your property, then I feel like these leaders are the wrong leaders.
You're confusing a lot of federal and state and.
You guys, you can't make law that contradicts federal law.
That's correct.
So let's strip it back to the federal law. We get private property. We get private property rights. Those aren't private property rights that are conditional on whether or not you guys want to look into it or not. Private property rights are private property rights. If you can't see my property, you stay out of my property. Until a neighbor says, hey, there's a violation, allows you on his property to take a picture of that violation.
So do you feel like when you moved to Bonner County, and I don't know when that was, but, that, you know, you have some responsibility to follow the rules of Bonner County? Because, I mean, Bonner County.
Are we talking codes or laws? Because I absolutely agree with laws. However, I never once negotiated my rights away to any of you guys.
Well, nobody said you did, but.
Well, then why would I come in and adhere to a law or a rule or a code that violates my rights?
Anybody in the state of Idaho would tell you that there's a certain amount of rules that have been made by planning departments and there's code and there's all this other
Right.
stuff. And some of it's state, some of it's even federal that we pass through to try to regulate what's going on the land. Whether it's wetlands or.
What do you mean regulate on the land? We're talking private land versus wetlands, which
Trust
is
me,
a federal issue most of the time.
Trust me,
But there's.
we, the three commissioners are very much into private property rights.
Okay, but
We are
if
very
you
much
guys
into-
are, then you should be agreeing with everything that I'm saying.
Well, I
because
do
I'm
with a
doing,
lot of it.
I'm
I do
doing
with a lot.
nothing but sticking up for private property rights.
Again, let's back up to what I started to say before you interrupted me, which is that when you moved here, you must have realized, did you research the rules that were in place? When you moved
You
here,
say rules.
that's your
and
responsibility.
You're saying codes, right? And what
Well,
I'm,
no,
what I'm
all,
telling you.
all rules.
what
I'm not gonna,
Okay,
I'm not
listen.
gonna take it down to just code or just planning and zoning or anything else, or our ordinances. That's your responsibility. You chose to move here.
I was born in America, afforded rights that the state cannot violate.
I agree with that.
Do you understand that concept?
And I don't think we are. I know we aren't, actually.
Really? Okay, so then what is the issue on my private property that is affecting you so much?
Like I say, when you came here, and when
You're just beating around it. I'm not in here to do a bunch of dancing with you guys. Not one bit. He wanted to answer my questions and talk to me. That's what I'm here to do. You don't seem to be part of the process right now.
Chad,
I'm talking
So
to
you
this guy.
want me to leave? I can
No, I'm not
leave.
asking you to leave, but don't turn this into a dance. I'm not in circular conversation.
Chad, so, but
I'm basically asking you guys, do you have an issue with it? You made the statement, and I would love for you to be able to clarify if you really feel that way, but you said you would love to be able to use drones on private property such as mine and
I didn't
his.
say I'd love to use drones.
You were recorded. It's on video.
Did I say
It's
I
on
recorded?
video.
Well, did
You guys
said would love
laughed
to be
about
able to
it.
use drones.
You guys laughed about it.
Quote.
Well, and so understanding though that state law, and which I'm well aware of, does not allow.
It shows the
It does
mentality
not-
though. It
no, it
shows the
doesn't.
intent in your
No,
words.
it doesn't.
It absolutely does. It shows that you would like to spy on us by any means
No, it
possible.
doesn't, because you're taking it out of context.
I'm literally listening to your words.
It was a joke.
It was a joke. So you don't agree with
We
it?
were joking around.
That's fine.
Absolutely, I don't.
That's
because
fine, and
it's
I'm giving
against
you
state
the
law.
opportunity to be able to
Thank
clarify.
you. Hallelujah.
That's fine.
Finally, I
But
can say
understand
it.
this, you're not in favor of drones, right?
I got it.
But
That's
you
great.
are in favor of satellites.
You
We
know,
use it.
We use them.
Guys, it's not about
It's
whether or
a-
not you can use it. It's about respecting your neighbor's rights, your neighbor's privacy.
Isn't
I
this-
can tell you that if I committed a crime,
Check.
I would not say, oh, it's not fair. I committed a crime and now they arrested me.
But you are.
No, I'm
Because-
not.
Because it was
No,
a,
I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I'm absolutely not. And I can tell you that your guys' assumptions are going to get you in trouble. I'm also telling you guys what you think you know from watching my YouTube channel is years. You might have something from years away. I'm telling you, you don't have valid information.
So,
I don't know what it is.
The,
What I'm telling you is you have to assume I'm doing something wrong because you've got zero proof of it. You have zero proof of it up to date. Yet you're still coming after me.
do you have you're living in a structure
Am
that's
I?
not permitted.
Am I? Are you assuming that?
Oh, I saw pictures of it in your video.
Did you?
I did.
From a while ago, huh?
I don't know.
From some time
Looked
ago.
like a new cook stove.
From some time ago.
Okay.
You ever heard of props?
Hey.
Hey,
Just-
I'm
YouTube
just-
channel, man.
I'm just telling you guys, okay? I'm letting you guys do what you want to do, but what I'm telling you is you're assuming because you can't enter my property and you can't see inside my property.
And now you're trying to violate his rights and make him give you access to his property.
I'm telling you right now, you know I came into the office to try and talk to someone, to talk to you guys about this entire situation. The issue is that you want a permit signed that allows you access to my property.
Yep.
Do you have access to my property right now?
Nope.
And you can't get it unless I
Chad,
sign it over.
I'm happy to change that sentence.
Do you
and
change
I,
away,
I
my
have
friend?
I have a
Change
meeting.
it all because for one, it's ridiculous to say.
I absolutely
It's
agree.
ridiculous to say we trust that you're doing
Yep.
the right thing and we're not
I
going to come out and
absolutely
check.
agree.
Give us access to your property.
And it's more ridiculous when you learn the history of that. It needs to be changed. I've been here 3 years.
Why don't we change it?
continue
How do we,
because it's
without
now.
shouting, how do we change it?
I'm not shouting. Sorry.
No, I think we're both shouting. How do we change it?
So I have a meeting with the board this afternoon, to talk about planning issues. The one that you saw on your video.
Mhm.
That meeting is this afternoon. I'll meet with the board. We will discuss that sentence and we will talk about how it needs to change.
Is that meeting open to the
I've done some
public?
research. Of course
It
it's
is.
open to the public.
Okay.
So I've done some research around the state, looked at other counties to see if they have a similar statement on their building permits, and they don't. And so.
It's reasonable.
I don't.
It's reasonable request, but that's how we change things, is we find out that, somebody, by asking a question, when I first started, I spent weeks and weeks asking questions. Why do we do this the way that we do? And we've changed a lot of regulation. We've changed a lot of things. You used to have to go get a permit from Panhandle Health, and they used to have to sign off on your building permit. They don't do that anymore. You used to not be able to split your land into 4 pieces without all of this rigmarole costing thousands of dollars in survey and other fees. We've deleted that. You can now split your property with the survey. It's still a process, but it's a much simpler process. We've done 67 minor land divisions this year because we made the process easier for people to do. We're trying to identify ways that continue to improve the county and make property easier for people
And
to use.
I understand what you're saying, but in the process, you guys are still trying to enforce those. When the 120 day came up, the assessor's office was trying to talk to Adrian about it. Said, well, how many days have you been living in that RV? We see that's on there. Why is it that we're still going after it if we all think it's ridiculous? Why are we still policing it? You know what I'm saying? The 120 days on private land is
Didn't know
ridiculous.
that anybody was
I mean,
policing.
coast to coast, guys, not being able to camp on your own. If someone wanted a tent on their land 365, don't you think that's up to them?
Yes, absolutely.
It's not fair to say, hey, we're here to protect property rights, property values, and then say, well, we don't like the way that guy's living, so he's out.
You were right the first time. They're trying to protect property values, not property
Well,
rights.
that's what your guys' slogan is, right? For protecting property values.
Slogan?
Yeah, you guys have like a mission
Again, that's
statement.
something we haven't changed yet. Since
Really?
Protecting property values, not
I
property
understand
rights.
Protecting value, but you guys gotta understand in this age where it's all about regulations and people developing, the value of my land is not development. It's not the price of that thing being worth so much more money than when I paid for it because now we've developed around it. You're awesome. That's not value to me.
Well,
The value to me is the way I choose to use my land.
so the regulations aren't always about property value. They're also about public health and safety. And you go down that road and it gets really cloudy fast and people start to create all this regulation on those things, public health and safety. And that's why building codes exist, that's why.
Public health
all
and
those other
safety,
things.
what are you referring to as in, like, what ones? Because some of those are dictated by the state,
like
not by you.
eliminating water sources.
Right,
I
right.
totally agree with that.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that kind of stuff. And then it goes back to if someone's caught doing it, they're held liable for it.
Right.
How would you propose catching them then?
What do you mean?
I mean, how do you find that out?
Well, we don't get to violate people's rights to see.
No,
if
I know, but
they're doing-
I'm just asking
Well, so
you.
like if a water
I've
table
heard
becomes
about it.
contaminated.
You want to pay me 80 grand a year to figure it out? I will.
What's the solution?
What I'm saying is what we're doing now is not the solution. The police don't get to go kicking doors to see if there's
I don't
issues.
disagree with that.
Okay.
So what is it?
So when a violation happens, that's when that person is held responsible for the damage done. That's just kind of the law of the land. That's the way crimes work. Right?
Okay.
So until, like I was telling
how
you
do we
before you came in
even
here,
identify
when a
that?
neighbor comes in and says, hey, built on he built over a setback, he's on our property line. That's when you guys get involved. Not when a neighbor doesn't say anything. I get along with my neighbors. So for one of his employees to say, oh, your neighbor turned you in. I have like one neighbor, and he didn't turn me in. There was no issue from him.
Right, but what we
You know what I'm
think, what
saying?
we're
What-
dealing with, yeah, I actually.
The other part of this,
The
guys,
discussion.
is trying to run a 100-acre lot the same as you would a 1-acre lot. One
Yep,
size
that is
fits all
the problem.
doesn't work in
you're
this.
absolutely
I don't
right.
disagree with that at all.
Yep.
I mean, my biggest thing is, I respect the laws, I understand the laws, and I know why they're there, okay? But to throw decent human beings into a jail cell or try to take their money because of an arbitrary code is wrong on a human level. It's immoral. If you're invested in this community, you wouldn't do this to your neighbors. I wouldn't do this to a single neighbor, ever.
And so the ordinance allows the opportunity for the director to work with property owners and work those issues out. We have people come in all the time and fix their violations, correct them. The fees that we could charge, we don't charge because they're willing to fix it and they're willing to work with us and talk about it. And so,
And in my case, you're talking about something that has no fee, other than my right to privacy.
again, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Because we don't know what
Correct.
you have.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, this is escalating because you guys want access to my property.
No, we want access to you. We want to know.
I don't want you to have access
just
to
understand
me
we-
because I'm secure in my person and I have a right to be secure in my person.
We
I
just wanna
don't
talk
have
you,
to
Chad,
answer
and See
you,
what you have.
but I don't have to answer to you.
You're right.
You
And
guys
so-
are a corporation, you work in contracts. I've contracted with you zero.
You have contracted with
I
us. When you
haven't.
purchased property
I
in
haven't.
Bonner County, you've
I have
also.
not contracted with you.
You have.
You cannot instill a law or a rule that says that you can violate my rights. That's
I'm not saying that
unconstitutional.
we're violating your rights.
I'm telling you, you're violating someone's rights when you demand access to their property, or you say, hey, you can't build a structure on your private land.
Without
We're
a-
not,
without a
this is
permit.
not commercial regulation. I did not sign.
The
I did not
permit-
sign a
You
state
did when you
permit.
bought your property.
The
No,
permit
I-
is for a certain size, isn't
You
it?
cannot sign your rights away. It can't be
You-
done.
no.
I can't give them
Yeah,
to you,
listen,
and you can't take
when you
them
bought
from me.
property in Bonner County,
I
you
understand
said
what
that
you're
you would
saying.
abide by the laws
Laws,
of that property.
not codes.
Well, it's the same thing.
No, it's not the same
They
thing.
are, because
They're
they're
not.
made by
They're
the.
two different things.
They're adopted by the board. They
They're
are
two different
laws.
things, because obviously you guys could put in codes that are unjust, unlawful.
Not me, the
And that's what-
board.
You
And that's
certainly
what the
could, because the
court-
I
board, you
don't.
guys are not lawyers,
And that's
correct?
what the court, we have lawyers.
But what I'm
about it.
saying is
We
mistakes
are-
can
we are-
be made.
Well,
You
yeah.
guys can easily say, we're doing this and that's it, just like you guys are going after the city, because they've infringed on the Second Amendment, correct? Or did they not? I guess we have
We'll see
a
what the
clash.
judge says,
We now
right?
have to find out, so now we're going to court to do it.
That's correct. Which
That's
is,
a burden of the taxpayer.
I.
I'm
don't
sorry for
disagree.
shouting.
No, I don't, I know. It's all right, because I tend to work myself into that frenzy too, but
You understand what I'm
I
saying, though?
appreciate the chance to have the conversation, right? So you've been having a conversation behind the scenes and, obviously creating some hoopla.
Guys, if nothing else, I'm getting my community involved.
Well, and that's fine, but make sure that we have the facts, everybody has facts. We all see it a little different than
Well,
you do.
I mean,
and
obviously the
that's why-
facts can be misconstrued when we talk
So-
about perception,
so
because when we strip
can
it
you
down from
allow
our
me to
constitutional
finish-
rights,
can you
yes.
allow me to finish the thought? I understand your constitutional rights. You've said it at least 10 times since I've been in here, and I haven't been in here for more than 10 minutes. So,
You should have been in here for the other 20 I said.
yeah, okay, so here's the deal. We don't wanna make a bunch more rules. We're not, commissioners that really wanna do that, but we're trying to do with the least amount of rules possible. And when we have a conflict in what our rules are, you have the right to go to court and say, these guys are unjustly treating me.
Right.
And then the judge will say,
Would I go to
Well,
court?
I agree
Do
with
you
you,
mind
Jeff.
paying for it then?
well.
Because I'm already
There-
paying for
there's
it
always
once.
there's always that
And then
chance.
there's- and
There's
then
always
there's-
that chance that you
But
can
there's
get
the
your.
issue that you're wielding a giant hammer that we've given you.
Boy, it's a pretty small hammer. You go anywhere. You go anywhere else in any other state, and you tell me that where you can go and walk in and talk to your planning director, and he's going to try to make it work. Most of it's like, I've got property in Montana. I've got property in Washington. Let me tell you something. What you get is a letter, and this is what you will do, and this is how you'll do it, and
Right,
that's it.
right.
There's no discussion. There's no motivation for the director to get involved and try to make it work. We're trying to change that, and I can't believe that we're having this discussion, because we are more able to make the rules fit, and we're more responsive to changing the rules
Right.
than any place I've ever dealt with.
And I'll admit that when I saw the one video of you guys, it was the first time I'd seen the video of you guys, and I didn't like what I saw, and that's what started all of this. So it started all of it. I just didn't like what I'd seen from my 3 county commissioners. Which is unfair, because it's the first time I'd seen you guys, but no one spoke up against the 120-day law. And I just
we
feel like
were
that's
speaking
wrong.
up against it, because it's been
Well,
in place for the last 20 years.
He had said
We're getting rid
that
of
he, I don't want to misquote you, but he had said, I forget what you said. Dan had said, well, maybe it's a matter of extending it out. Oh, you had said, well, watching people live in RVs is not something we want to see. Is that correct, or where are we at on this?
Watching somebody live in RVs?
Seeing people living in RVs is not something that you wanted to see. That's what was said.
I said that I don't think that living in RVs full-time is the way that it should be, but that's part of me expressing I have the right also, right? I mean, even
No,
if
I'm not saying you don't have the right. My issue is if that's your opinion, I wouldn't agree with you as my official then. I wouldn't want you representing my voice, because that's not my opinion. It also
And
happens
that's
to be
all right.
not the opinion. I'm not saying you don't have the right to speak. What I'm saying is when you spoke, it has consequences, and I didn't like what you had said.
Okay.
And I didn't like what Dan had said.
But it's all right
Stephen
for
didn't
you
say
to come to
anything.
me and say, I disagree with what you said there, and this is why. And you know what? Maybe I would say, yeah, that's probably right. Maybe I didn't think that through. Maybe what I did was a snap comment about, well, boy, that's what we want. It's people living in RVs all over Bonner County. Maybe that's what I said. But
Can I ask you why it is you don't like that?
I just think that, you know, that when you have neighbors and when, I don't know, I've lived here my whole life.
Mhm.
I've lived here for 61 years and I've seen different things that have become what I call a nuisance.
Mhm.
And you know, junk piles around and you know, and I'm pushing all the time.
Is that a nuisance because of what it looks like or what it winds up becoming? Because
Both
it becomes a
can
lot of
become-
criminal element that comes along with that.
Well, I
It's
don't know
not,
about
it's
that.
not about the
I
criminal
can't say
element, it's
criminal element.
it's
I
the
would-
wear and tear of the structure, right? And so, and that's just life, right?
But I mean, that seems like a specific junkyard issue. And again, I mean, no one loves it, but isn't it that man's right to have his junkyard if that's his beloved junkyard? You know, and we're talking about individual rights versus saying,
Yeah, and
you know,
we've
when
got-
we get into the city gets to design the city the way that they want it, and then they get to push for the way they want it to look, and it represents Bonner County. My property isn't the face of Bonner County,
Right.
the city is. So dictating that stuff inside the city makes sense. Trying to dictate that stuff in rural land that you can't see and you couldn't even see into if you wanted to, it doesn't make sense for you to say, hey man, you can't live in your RVs, we don't
See,
like
I
it.
don't-
Again, you're
it's about-
talking about complex issues. First off, we don't regulate the cities, we don't have anything to do with the cities. But we do have urban areas. We have areas around the lake where there's quarter acre lots or smaller. We have areas in Sagal and other areas
Right.
that have urban sized lots. They're not urban, they're not cities, but they
Right.
have that type of.
And I
And
understand
so-
this,
but
but
then
those
we
guys
also
are
have the
dictating
big-
what we do, and that's not,
Well,
to me, that's not
and
acceptable.
that's why we.
But I understand your point, like, we don't
Why we
want it to
created the
look like
sub-area
crap in
plans.
this area. I completely agree with you. But then it reverts back to, you got the
What are
right
your
to
rights?
make your land look like crap. You know, whether we like it or not, you know, we've talked about this in our meeting, if you don't like what your neighbor does, buy your neighbor's land, or buy bigger land to where it doesn't affect you. But when those 4 walls go up to the sky, that's what you get, and that's it. You're not entitled to what your neighbor does. You're just not. Until he harms you, you have no recourse.
Well, and what is that harm? What is that harm that he does to you?
Well, I think if you tried to argue harm to, you know, property value for someone such as myself, if a builder came in and built all around me, to me, he's lowering the value of my property because now my secluded property is no longer secluded. I'm living in a neighborhood. Do I have that right to say, hey man, you put in a neighborhood around me, you lowered my property value? That if it's monetary, it's monetary. It's the value, it's the value in my eyes. I mean, that's the definition of value. It's not monetary. So if you're saying protecting the monetary value of land in Bonner County, it has a whole different meaning to it.
Okay.
What people see as value is, you know, it's in their eye.
Okay.
Damage wise, you know,
So
if
would
I
you-
light my property on fire and then it goes to my neighbors, I'm now responsible for the damage. If I run my sewage line to his property line and let it run into his property, that's my damage to him. He's a damaged party at that point. If we don't have a damaged party, why are we trying to enforce codes? There's no damaged party. No one's reported anything.
It's a nanny state trying to basically enforce that you're future tripping. They call it future
We
tripping.
don't wanna be that way, and so while you're talking, I'm thinking through the code and maybe there's a way that this needs to be addressed.
I mean, think through your heart, man.
Yeah, no, I'm there.
Like, our
I've been
neighbors
there
in this
the whole
area
time.
is so beautiful. North
Yeah.
Idaho is so beautiful. And there's enough shitty places out there that people can
Yeah.
move to and get all the restrictions and control that
Yeah.
they want. Let's
Absolutely.
keep Idaho the way that it was, where
And
people
we-
can freely
right.
and love their neighbors.
I don't disagree with
And I don't
that.
say that from like a hippie type.
But there are
I'm
folks
saying
out
like
there-
respect your neighbors, you know?
I like that.
Well, and the reality is, there are folks that are saying the opposite. They come to our meetings, they show up and complain about the ordinances that we're writing, the lessening of the code restrictions.
And it's those people who are trying to infringe on someone's right, you know, and they can be a loud voice and have that opinion, but when we strip it all the way back to rights, you just are not entitled to your neighbor's land. You have no entitlement. You don't, other than your own personal feelings and wants. And I'm telling you guys, because I'm about to get developed around, a developer's buying all the land around me. He's gonna ruin my homestead. He's gonna mess up my farm, okay? He has the right to do it. And I'm telling you this from the other side of the argument. He's going to
I'm glad you know
destroy.
about that, 'cause
What's that?
I said, I'm so glad you know about that, because
Yeah,
We're
he's
in
not
the process of
tricky. He's not
rezoning
tricky,
the
yeah.
whole area.
I'm well aware of what he's doing. But what I'm saying is he's destroying what I see as value of my property. But he has the right to do it because he's buying up all the land. You know what I mean? Like, that negatively affects me, and I'm still sitting here saying it from an unbiased position. It's his right to do it.
But would you stand up against it and say, boy, I don't think that fits here?
No,
That's what happens. Sometimes people are like, the discussion becomes, boy, why couldn't you do that over here? Because what happens is
Right.
nobody wants it in their backyard, whether it's development or an RV park or a
Correctional
tiny home.
facility
I mean, really, what's that?
or correctional facility.
Yeah. I mean,
Cooney County?
We run into this all the time.
Right.
This is what we struggle with. I mean, a lot of what you're saying, I mean, it hits home, and what we'd like to do is have that discussion amongst ourselves instead of, accusations and stuff like that. We're not trying to do anything to anybody, but we are trying to manage what our job is. And it's
Yeah.
a big picture.
We'll help you.
I do.
We've got a group that's going to help you guys manage what you need to manage.
That kind of sounds almost threatening.
No,
No, it's a great.
we're going to go over all the codes that,
You know, a lot
that are
of
there that
people-
shouldn't be.
A lot of the people that are part of this group have been here, and they're watching it change, and they're watching things get pushed out, and they don't want it. You know what I mean?
Well, I
It's not
guarantee
new
you-
people coming in.
So we've been having meetings in the Blanchard area, Blanchard community for a year.
Mhm.
Or over.
And haven't seen, every month for a year, and haven't seen or heard of any of this group you're
Right,
talking about.
yeah, we're brand new,
So-
man. It's I mean, it's
Well, so
gotta
you
start
need to
somewhere.
be there too.
Absolutely.
We will be.
Because
And we're planning
creating-
on it, yeah,
Okay, because
absolutely.
we're in the-
And we're not coming there to attack you guys. I mean, I think.
You're not going to attack us because
I-
you're creating
Right.
what your community's gonna look like,
Right.
right? That's
And
what a
we're all
comprehensive
learning the
plan
process,
does.
and we all wanna come in and
Yeah.
work with you guys.
Hey, I gotta eat lunch
Okay.
because I've got to.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But seriously, guys, I mean, come talk to me. I mean, I've got a fairly busy schedule, but we're more than willing to have a conversation. I think we both learned quite a little bit here. I mean, I've learned a lot of your point of views and why you have big concerns, and they're valid.
We
So,
appreciate it.
I'm listening.
Okay.
And
Appreciate
that's
you
my
stopping
job,
in.
I think, is to listen to, what you guys are thinking, and we need to make some changes, and we will make changes as they're brought forward, and we've shown it in the past. All right?
Thank you,
guys.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Oh, cool.